to see that I think that he's suicidal. Like, fuck. That's my failing. That's my failing as a friend. That's my failing as a person. And, you know, we did a podcast a while back where we were talking about, he started talking about Israel, and I was like, I think you're just losing your mind. And a lot of people are like, you're covering for Israel. And it wasn't what I was trying to do. And it is my fault. It's clunky, and I was just trying to talk him off the ledge.
All right, so it looks like Joe Rogan just spent the last 20 minutes of his podcast going into full-blown damage control mode after Theo Von called him out publicly online this past weekend. And honestly, this entire situation somehow managed to get even stranger than it already was. Because if you are not already up to speed, over the past 2 weeks, Rogan has repeatedly been talking about Theo like he was mentally spiraling completely out of control, implying that Theo's antidepressants were making him lose his mind, and even going as far as suggesting that he was genuinely worried Theo might end it all.
Vaughn's going through the exact same thing. And last time I was on the podcast, he was explaining it to me. And it freaks me out because I know Theo has had conversations before, like even publicly. And then he goes down these spirals where he starts talking about world events and freaking out. I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. Like, I gotta help.
Which a lot of people online found incredibly disturbing, especially because Theo himself has never really indicated that he was anywhere near that state of mind. I mean, there was that one moment back in October when Theo joked about ending it all after bombing his Netflix special recording, but he cleared that up just days later and made it pretty obvious it was not a serious statement.
Tell you what that, man, I'm having a long month. I'm trying not to my own life, so I just want to get these photos.
I would never my own life. I would never my own life.
So this entire narrative that Joe was spinning last week felt both completely out of nowhere and genuinely unsettling. And the reason this whole thing went so viral online is that the timing of everything looked unbelievably suspicious, because all of this started right after Theo went on Joe Rogan's podcast and made Joe visibly uncomfortable by openly criticizing Israel, Palantir, Donald Trump, and the war in Iran. That moment instantly caused conspiracy-minded people online to start saying that Joe Rogan looked compromised or controlled by powerful political interests, and that he had spent that entire podcast covering for Israel.
Drones in the air all day. You know, there's that Palantir company just keeping tabs on everything that was happening. And
Palantir's involved in Gaza?
Palantir was involved in Gaza, yeah.
For sure? Mm-hmm. Put that into perplexity. Israeli government began using Palantir software in 2014. Significantly scaled up its partnership during the genocide in Gaza, which began in This is for sure a biased source, just by the way they phrase that. So maybe that's not the best source.
So once Joe randomly started painting Theo as mentally unstable shortly after that podcast aired, the internet immediately went into full conspiracy mode, because it genuinely appeared as if Joe was carefully setting up a narrative around Theo for something really dark and disastrous to happen to him somewhere down the line.
Every time she's tried to get off, it's been devastating.
Yep.
And I know people that have also been on him that they try to get off him, like my friend Theo Von, and the roof falls off. And like every time he starts talking about something that drives him crazy, I just got to kind of rein him in and just like calm down. Like, you know, if you've had friends their lives, and I've had a few.
I've had quite a few.
It's a horrible feeling when you think about it and you go, what could I have done?
And these clips wound up going so viral online that even Theo himself responded directly, saying that Joe was pretty much lying about him and that he was genuinely sad to see his own friend talk about him this way, while also making it clear that at the end of the day, he is just a human being like everyone else. He also took to Facebook, where he implied that Rogan was exaggerating about his mental health and spreading false narratives about him struggling, and that he is actually completely fine and simply dealing with the normal ups and downs that every person goes through. So he pushed back pretty firmly against the idea that he is in any kind of serious crisis. And this whole thing got really messy for Rogan very quickly. Theo's call-out alone pulled in over 12 million views on Twitter. On top of that, it had everyone convinced that Rogan was both backstabbing Theo and actively protecting Israel at the same time. So now, Joe has suddenly returned today, sounding completely panicked about the level of backlash he has brought on himself.
So I wanted to do this because, number one, because I feel bad. And whenever I feel bad about something, and I felt bad all weekend, I feel like I have to address this. So I did an episode recently with Marcus King. And, we were talking about people on antidepressants that can't get off of them. And I brought up Theo. I brought up this instance where Theo he did a show for Netflix, and it apparently didn't go well. And afterwards, he said something to someone in the audience where he said, "I'm just trying to not my own life," or not my own life. I forget exactly how he said it. And I brought that up. I certainly shouldn't have brought that up in that context. And I probably shouldn't have brought it up, period. But I just sort of wanted to kind of explain why I have this thing with Theo where I just want him to be okay. And, we did a podcast a while back where we were talking about, he started talking about Israel, and I was like, I think you're just losing your mind. And a lot of people are like, you're covering for Israel. And it wasn't what I was trying to do. And it is my fault. It's clunky, and I was just trying to talk him off the ledge because I had seen this video, and you'd seen that video too. Yeah. Now, by the way, I've talked to Theo. I apologized to Theo, and Theo and we started laughing 5 minutes into the conversation. We had a long talk. I got scared, first of all, because I love Theo, and second of all, because I've known multiple people that have in their own life that I was close to that I didn't know they were going to do it until they did it. And when they did it, you feel so and so helpless. You don't know what you could have said or done differently.
So, as you just saw, Joe is immediately starting to backtrack and apologize for everything he said, openly admitting that he never should have brought up Theo's mental health in the first place on his massive world-famous podcast. And honestly, the craziest part from today's episode is that Joe straight up admits he completely understands why people thought he was covering for Israel during that original Theo podcast, which is pretty remarkable because he explains it away so casually here. But if you go back and actually watch the clips from that episode, it just looks really bad. It genuinely looked like Joe was terrified whenever Theo started criticizing Palantir. So trying to sweep all of that under the rug today does not really do anything to change that narrative.
Podcast where I told him, he started talking about Israel, and people were saying I was covering for Israel. There's people that even say my wife is Jewish. She's not. I don't know why people are saying that, but I get how if you are conspiratorially minded, you would think that that's what I was doing. But if you've listened to the show, you wouldn't think that that's how I've had so many episodes where we criticize Israel. So many so that I brought in Dave Smith to argue with Douglas Murray because I didn't want Douglas Murray to be able to say these things that were promoting this war in Gaza without someone who's very educated, who understands what's going on, which is Dave, and very good at arguing. When you have a good friend, but you don't, like with comics, it's one of the things we see each other like every few months. We don't spend a whole lot of time together sometimes. And then you see a guy when you haven't seen him in so long and they start telling you that they're not doing well and you don't know what to do. And that's where I kind of found myself. I mean, I don't know any other way to say this. I think I've said too much already. But I apologize to Theo. He knows I love him, and he said that, and we laughed and we joked around about it, and I apologize for the way I talked about this. But I felt like I need to explain to other people too. And it certainly wasn't like covering for Israel, and it certainly wasn't like trying to paint him out like he's damaged or...
Obviously, whether you believe Joe's explanation or not is completely up to you. But what makes this story so fascinating is just how quickly the internet escalated everything into a full-blown conspiracy. Because once Theo pushed back against Rogan's comments online, suddenly every single moment from their original podcast together started looking 10 times more suspicious to people. especially all those clips where Joe looked visibly uncomfortable and almost caught off guard responding to Theo's criticisms of Israel.
Always done that also to stay in power.
Oh, yeah.
And even Bill Clinton said that about Netanyahu. Bill Clinton said Netanyahu wants war so he can stay in power.
For sure, dude. People call him the yarmulke Hitler. That's what they call
Who are
him.
these people?
Everybody does.
Which people?
Countless.
Come on, people?
Huh?
What are you saying?
What do you mean, people? You talking about
What are you talking about,
black
dog?
folks? What are you saying?
No. I don't know what you're saying.
I don't know what you're saying.
I don't know what you're saying.
Okay.
Let's not draw conclusions.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
But what also, it's like, it's all just a cat and mouse game. People are like, we'll elect the Democrats next time. It's like, but it's all the same has been happening forever. They haven't been helping anybody forever. They're letting fucking politicians slurp on kids. All of our fucking money goes to Israel and they're using it to fucking genocide people. It's like everybody is scared out of their wits right now. It's like our religious leaders are afraid to speak out. And it's like it's a time where it's like Satan is amongst us and our religious leaders are fucking talking about bullshit at the poll. It's just like, what is going, I don't know, man.
We got to get you off those antidepressants, son. You're losing your fucking marbles.
You think I am?
Come hang out with us. Just chill out.
I'm here.
Just chill out at the mothership tonight.
I do have to pee in a little while, but
You can pee.
I'm gonna pee in a minute, man.
We'll let you.
But no, people are just scared, dude. This is
We'll
that I
let you
hear
in
from
Canada.
people.
And honestly, the most unsettling part about Joe seemingly predicting Theo's death is the fact that conspiracy-minded people immediately started connecting this situation to an old Trevor Moore clip from years ago. All the way back in 2015, Joe joked on his podcast that comedian Trevor Moore was going to die by falling off the roof of his house and hitting his head, which is bizarrely similar to the way Trevor actually died years later in what many people online still consider a deeply suspicious accident involving blunt force trauma.
Amazon's not going to let you borrow their drones.
No, but it's got to come to your house, right? To drop off a package.
Yeah, but I think it just drops it off and then takes off. I don't think it waits for you to release it. You know, I think it just drops it off and then that's it.
Well, you have your buddy order something. Then you go up on the roof with a baseball bat. You wait for that fucker.
Imagine if you died because you were trying to hit a fucking drone and you slipped and fell off your roof and broke your neck. That would be a sad funeral. This stupid fuck. He died trying to hit a home run off a drone.
And if you are not familiar with who Trevor Moore was, he was essentially a comedian who publicly called out Epstein, the CIA, and various powerful institutions. Someone who flew a little too close to the sun, as people say. So his accidental death struck a lot of conspiracy theorists as extremely suspicious. And obviously, that moment from the Trevor Moore episode of Joe Rogan's podcast was most likely just a bizarre coincidence. But because the internet had already started viewing Joe's comments about Theo as ominous and unsettling, people immediately dug up that old clip and ran with the idea that Rogan was somehow predicting yet another comedian's downfall. And that probably added even more pressure on Joe to come out and clear everything up today. Because once the internet latches onto a narrative like this and starts running with it, things spiral completely out of control, with no signs of slowing down.
Like a child. I just want him to be okay. And when you're dealing with someone, or when you have like had experience dealing with someone where it winds up going very badly, and then you're just left with this feeling like, what could I have done? You know, I didn't do a good job of it. You know, especially like the Marcus King thing. Like that's terrible what I did. I didn't mean to. I was just trying to. You don't think sometimes when you're in the middle of a podcast, you're just having a conversation. You don't think about the impact that it's going to have. That's one of the reasons why, you know, podcasts are so weird, because like you're in the middle of trying to be entertaining, but you're also just having a conversation. And I fucked up. So because I felt so badly about it, I was like, there's got to be a way to address this where I just express myself. And so that's why. We've never done this before. No. We've never done this kind of a thing after a podcast, but Theo's very important to me.
So yeah, all this backpedaling Joe did on this recent podcast is actually pretty refreshing to witness. I mean, he has always said that he never responds to criticism, and he has never really been the type to openly admit when he messed up. But there was genuinely no other way for Rogan to get out of this one without addressing it directly, because the entire situation made him look like both a downright terrible friend for talking about Theo the way he did, and someone completely compromised by powerful outside interests. So this response from Joe is completely out of character, but it is good to see. Now, if you look at it from a hardcore conspiracy theorist's perspective, you could probably still spin this into Joe having some darker plan behind everything surrounding Theo. But honestly, I think Joe Rogan is just someone who does not think before he speaks. He is genuinely just careless with his words, and it is all catching up to him now. He is sitting here realizing for what seems like the first time that his words actually carry real consequences, which is wild that it took something this big for him to finally arrive at that conclusion. So, Joe repeatedly emphasizes throughout this podcast that Theo is one of his favorite people on the planet, that he genuinely loves him, that he never intended to hurt him publicly, and that he feels absolutely terrible for putting him in that position. Rogan even admits the whole situation consumed his thoughts all weekend long because he realized Theo was out there having to defend himself against millions of people who now believed he was secretly planning to end everything. Which, to be fair, is a pretty awful position to accidentally put your closest friend in.